Welcome to Break Through the Ordinary. You know you desire a more impactful, connected, extraordinary life. That's why we are here to bring you stories from transformational leaders, healers, and entrepreneurs who found themselves trapped in the ordinary and are now living their most extraordinary life because of a breakthrough moment. Together, we will provide world-class tips and tools enabling you to live a life purposely, aligning your heart and soul. Because we believe no one should be imprisoned by their past. We are your hosts, Mark and Claudine Tremonte, a sibling duo who transformed from an ordinary life of disconnection and loneliness to a life of purpose, love, and passion. We use our expertise, our trainings, and experience to inspire others to live an extraordinary life so they can create intimate, thriving relationships that ripple throughout the world. This podcast is only the tip of the iceberg of what is possible. If you want to dive deeper into our systems and break through the endless patterns of settling for crumbs, contact us at the btopodcast@gmail.com.
Today on our podcast, we have Hao Li. He's inspired by teaching and mentoring people and creating financial freedom for many people. That's for sure. We're actually with him too in some investments. He has a mastermind that he runs. He's also in Grant Cardone's exclusive real estate mastermind for anybody who doesn't know, Mr. 10X, which is an awesome thing. With his knowledge and experience and network, he strives to create financial freedom for all his partners through real estate. It's nice to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, definitely a pleasure. We've known each other for many years now, done some trainings together. And, so our audience can get to know you. If you could share with us, what is a breakthrough that you've had in your life that shifted you from an ordinary life to the extraordinary life that you have now generated for yourself, Alex?
Oh man, there's so many different points in my life where, where it contributes to the breakthroughs, I guess. But I think one of the biggest ones for me is when I opened 2 restaurants, and the amount of work that I put into those businesses, working almost 17 hours a day. And that was far from my idea of financial freedom. A lot of money came in, but even more went out because I was in this space of like, all right, got to make a lot of money, got to work. And when I trade so much time and energy for money, when the weekend comes, there's no discipline to, invest it, save it. It was like, let me just blow the whole entire thing. So I think the majority of, people out there, Americans, like we all work really, really hard throughout the week. And then when Friday comes, like, oh, thank God it's Friday. And the thank God it's Friday, it's like, let's go out and blow this money. And I think this is the rat race and the loop that when I owned those businesses, it really, almost looking back at it, it was probably one of the most profound times where I learned about financial freedom. Yeah, like I had a concept of it beforehand. I took Rich Dad Poor Dad's personal coaching. So I had a concept of exiting the rat race, and it wasn't until the restaurant businesses that I realized like, wow, I really am in this race. And that was when I was somewhere in my late 20s. And the realization had me just take a complete shift. And from that moment on, it was always, my mind was always, if I was going to invest my money, then my money has to work for itself. If I invest my money into something and my energy into something, unless it's my passion and something that I love to do, all that will do is distract me and basically fracture, I guess, my energy and the things that are important to me. So yeah, I think I contribute that to definitely the restaurant business.
So what had you in that space of seeing that you were doing so much output for the money and the thank God it's Friday concept that America loves to have, right? But what had you break through that, and go, oh no, this is not for me? Was there somebody, some experience, some realization that had you
actually,
awaken to?
I guess I can say there was a personal development training called gratitude training, which, a lot of people have partaken on. And it really helped me see, in that time that I was really just running in this hamster wheel the entire time. And while I was in the restaurant business, it was harder for me to see because it was right up in my face And so much of why I was even there was this like looking good. I needed to look like the man on the college campus. Like I owned this restaurant. It was in the center of the campus. And I really wanted to look cool, to all my peers. And I don't know. I mean, I'm sure many of us looking good and looking cool.
We've all had that conversation.
Yes.
So for sure.
Gotcha.
So in your words, what is the breakthrough that individuals need to have in order to live the extraordinary life they seek?
Yeah, what I teach there's first is identifying some limiting beliefs that we have, and then also identifying the habits that these unconscious beliefs that run us, identifying those, and then implementing a strategy that is congruent to a game plan that we create for financial freedom. And, one of the pillars that I talk about in my book that I'm writing is mentors. If I had the right mentor, I would have saved probably millions of dollars. I would have saved years of time. And I speak about a lot of times to my clients and my students and on my mastermind how I was ready. I had a game plan to buy real estate as my way out of the rat race. And I was ready with the money within probably 1 year, 1 or 2 years, something like that. But it took me another 5 more years to buy my first property because I didn't have the right mentor in place. And 5 years, what does 5 years cost? I don't even know if we can put a monetary value on 5 years, but because I didn't have a mentor, 5 years was gone. Because I didn't have a mentor going into the restaurant business, I threw hundreds of thousands of dollars down the drain that could have been prevented. So, yeah, one of the things I talk about is definitely getting great mentors. Probably the most important thing in my life.
Really? So can you share with us how would somebody go about that? Like, what are you looking for? Who are you looking towards? Even for me, say I want a mentor. What would I do?
Yeah, I think first is just to, I tell people if you don't really know, then just surround yourself with the conversation. Most people say, when I have the money, when I have the time, then I'll go do it. And probably the money one is the one that delays most people, but you want to be surrounding yourself with the conversation now so that you can be going in the right direction as you're saving up this money, if that's the case. By the time you have the money, you should have a strategy in place, because if you don't even have the strategy in place, you won't even have the money to get there. Because money will just leak out everywhere. There will be money spent on shoes, spent on cars, spent on a bunch of things that are not really congruent to a path of financial freedom. And so I would say surround yourself with the conversation first. Join free masterminds. Like I host a free mastermind every Monday night. There's no obligations of anything. It's literally there just to support each other to get to financial freedom. I bring some speakers on there. There are people that share what's worked for them. And that's the point of the mastermind, I believe, is when people come together with the same goals, same intentions, and also with this like desire to serve and to help one another. There's a purity to this type of mastermind that really helps people astronomically and saves a lot of time. So I would say definitely surround yourself with the conversation. There's free. I mean, your mentor doesn't have to be somebody that like you sit down or have a call one-on-one with. Literally, before I had money, before I even went out and got mentors, my mentors were like Robert Kiyosaki. My mentors were like Chris Crone, Grant Cardone. These guys that share free information on the internet. If people aren't having the success or the wealth or the money that they want, I mean, really just all you have to do is simply look at where am I spending most of my time? How much time am I listening to these videos? How much time am I reading books? These are all free mentorships or very inexpensive mentorships if you take some courses here and there. But I believe that every action produces some sort of result. There's an outcome or a consequence to every action. There's an effect to every one. So yeah, I would say that's where, if you were just to start out of nowhere, I mean, kind of find what interests you and, start to develop the mindset that's necessary to have the freedom, the breaking free from the rat race.
We could end the podcast right there, I mean, you actually gave the most important that there's so much free out there. I just wanted to say that and like rehash it for the listeners. It's right there. It's free everywhere. There's so much out there that's being given, and we've gone to your mastermind. It's phenomenal. We're in partnership with you. It's phenomenal. So people listen to what he's saying. These words are beyond wisdom. So
Thank you.
You mentioned a limiting belief like people have about money. I'll do it when, right? Like, I have to have it first before I can go be it. Do you notice some other trends in self-limiting beliefs, Alex, when you're working with your clients or even that were yours maybe, or in general that you're seeing as patterns that, we're conditioned into?
Yeah, I think the first thing is that every single one of us have limiting beliefs. I mean, let's just recognize and put that out there. It's not like I'm better, you're better. Grant Cardone, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, they all have their own limiting beliefs. These stories that are unconscious that run us, that create certain habits that, I mean, if we take a look at, are they in service to what it is that I'm up to? I think that's super important. So, I speak about this first to a lot of my clients and people that coach with me. It's let's identify some of these limiting beliefs, and I'll put examples out there. They can write their own, but first to identify them and then to find evidence why they are not facts and they're not the truth. To when we uncover those, when we bring the limiting beliefs from the background to the front, we have a choice. Like, do we want to be run by them in this moment? So some of the limiting beliefs that I hear a lot is, I'm too old. I'm not worthy of it. I can't do it. Something along the lines of those. It's never been done before in my family. I'm the first to do it. Whatever. I'm the pioneer. There are all different types of limiting beliefs. Now, there's also limiting beliefs about money itself. Like people that don't have money will say things that are like, money can't buy happiness. Money is evil. Money doesn't matter. And it's fun. I mean, you can have your opinions about them. They're not right or wrong, but we want to look at like, do they serve you? Do they serve you in creating it? You're like, there's an incongruency when you're saying money doesn't matter and you're out there working, trading your time, which is the most precious thing, for money. If it doesn't matter, then why are you trading your most valuable commodity for it? It must matter on some level. So there's an incongruency in that. And then there's also limiting beliefs around personal value. Some people think it's actually noble to be like poor. Like, it's humbling. We brag about how we grew up poor and how humble I am, a family. We just, we work so hard, and that starts to come, people start to develop this limiting belief also that they can't receive either. How many people out there are willing to buy a gift or spend money on others, but not on themselves? This like personal worth that's tied to it. And I think one of the other biggest ones is definitely limiting beliefs when it comes to relationships. Everything in life is relationships. I always say every single thing is a team game. One of the things is like, people will treat me differently if I have money. Who's going to be my friends? What are they going to, if I had money, what's the conversations going to be like? Are they just going to be asking me for money? Money changes people. Also, there's things like my spouse and my family don't trust my financial decisions. I don't know the right people. These are all just limiting beliefs around relationships too. So we have limiting beliefs in so many different things. So I usually like to give some examples like I did right there. And then people can write out their own. And sometimes these aha moments, it's like, wow, here I go again. As they go on and integrate some of these thoughts and bring it to the forefront, they're like, wow, here I go doing that. I didn't even notice that my come from is that my spouse and my family doesn't trust me. My partners don't trust me. It's like, I didn't know I had that running me. And that's why I behave the way I do. That's the way I react the way I do. Some limiting beliefs that I usually start off with.
it is unconscious because I remember, I got divorced and really went bankrupt and everything. And I couldn't seem to get my business the way I wanted it and grow. And I was working with a coach. And the aha moment was she had me find out that I wouldn't build it again because I was afraid somebody was going to take it again because I had lost it all in divorce. So that was operating and I didn't even know it. And that's when my business started to open again. But for years I was like, what is going on here? And I didn't know that unconscious belief of I'll never build it again because somebody will take it away. So it's a perfect example of what you're talking about.
Yeah, my life is very guided by a spiritual path as well, and we talk about how the error gets to be fixed, not at the level of the symptom, but at the level where it occurs, which is in our mind. Like the error occurs where my limiting beliefs were, where they were created and where they're running, not in like, let me rearrange things, my business, my wife, and whatever it is, let me rearrange those things so that I can find some happiness. But really, when we take ownership and we take the power back from being victims of all these things outside, the error occurred right here in the mind, and we get to shift it there, shift our perception around our limiting beliefs. Like, are they the truth? And then when we realize they're really not, we can just kind of giggle and laugh at ourselves and move forward.
Is that one of your pillars? Like you had said, like one of your pillars is looking at the limiting beliefs, strategies, right? How else do you bring people through this when you realize it is about relationship to self, to wealth, to spirit, all right? They're all created here. How do you bring them through that, Alex?
Yeah, so I know that in the background of myself, like when I'm working with people, my goal is really it's trust and faith. That's my bonus pillar. Actually, my bonus pillar is like where my come from is that I believe God's got it handled. God's got everything handled. So for me to have that level of faith and trust, I think it brings some groundedness and calmness in all situations. And for me, I don't think there is a situation out there that couldn't use more groundedness or calmness when it comes to reacting to something. So that's my bonus pillar. I know that this is where I'm kind of bringing people to deepen their trust, their faith in something that's much bigger. I think there's a unrest and an angst and anxiety that us as human beings naturally have. Comes down to trust. We don't trust people. We don't trust the government. We don't trust the media. We don't trust every single thing out there. We can find something we don't trust about it. And
including ourselves. Yeah, we can find evidence.
We can find evidence for anything. So if we wanted to, we can also find evidence that, hey, I can trust. Yeah, just to kind of talk a little bit more. I don't want to give everything away about my 8 pillars so that, when my book is released,
sure.
I can use this podcast and be like, hey, look, that's one of my marketing campaigns.
I won't buy the book. I'll just listen to him on the podcast.
Yeah. So, I talk a little bit about the different pillars. Leveraging is one of the most important things. I think a lot of people don't understand or think that like leveraging is bad. Whether it's leveraging debt, money, leveraging other people. It's like, oh my God, you're just here to use other people. I'm here to use and to be used. And this is to create a relationship. When I go to a network meeting or when I go to a big seminar, I know that in the back of my mind, there's only 1 or 2 people I need to meet here. And if there's 1,000 people here and I'm like, oh, I gotta be nice to these people. I gotta do all these other things. I forget that my mission is I need to meet 1 or 2 people that's going to change my life here. So like, there's really only 2 questions. My question is, what can I do for you? Okay. So I'm listening for what they need. And the other question is, how can I use this person? How can I leverage them? Let's not use. Use is almost like people might feel a certain way about me saying, oh, how can I use this person? But how can I leverage them? How can I leverage their resources? When you want to make a deal happen in any part in real estate, you're either going to bring experience or you're going to bring money or you're going to bring time. These are the 3 things I'm looking for. I'm like, okay, I can use all 3 of these. Now, how can I leverage this person? So I'm listening when I talk to somebody real quick. I'm like, all right, this is going to be a 5-minute conversation. These are the only 2 things I'm looking for. How can I provide some sort of service to this person? How can I be some kind of use for this person? And then also, how can I leverage them? So I think leverage is something that I talk about. I go much deeper into the use of money and debt and all of that as well. I speak deeper into that conversation. One of the other ones is proximity. We all know like who you surround yourself with. You're the sum of the average of the 5 people you spend most of your time with. Well, some of mine are on YouTube. That's who I spend the most time with. I just listen to them. And, being at these seminars, being around really action driven people, I think proximity, we can definitely take a look at ourselves. Easy, just real quick. Who am I hanging out with the most? What are their conversations? If I identify my limiting beliefs, I can also identify others that are around me. And then the more that we surround ourselves with it, the more we just unconsciously become those things.
So this goes back to what you were saying before too, about mentorship, right? Because they are some of our proximity, and I just appreciate you say that even on YouTube. So I know that you live with your wife in a certain state, but so even if that's who you're with, you're still surrounding yourself in other conversations, YouTube or communities that you're a part of, either you run or you're a member of. Okay.
Well, because you brought it down to relationship. Everything's about relationship, and truthfully, how do we serve each other? That's really, it's actually healthy. We look at it as how am I going to leverage somebody? We're leveraging and using all the time, or whatever you want to label it. I mean, are you doing it consciously? Are you doing it with an intent to hurt or intent to help? I mean, really. And I admire that about you, is that you're really helping people in so many ways, in their lifestyle and their finances and relationships. So it's a beautiful gift.
Thank you. I actually write about that in my book, about where that mentality came from. It actually came from, I'll give it away. Just, like the death of my father actually was where all of it came from. I realized that in order for me, I was like, I finally know my function in life. If I'm going to release my own pain, I must serve and help others to do the same. And in that, somehow I feel released. When I'm feeling outwardly focused, when I give in that way, like that's how I calm my pain and calm my wars, within. So talk about that a little bit.
Wow. That's some wisdom. I don't think I knew that. Do you mind sharing a little more personally? I know that I've seen pictures that you've posted about you and your dad. So did he die at a young age in your life?
Yeah, he died. He died when I was 21, and he was. I mean, I literally sent him an email, and he responded. I said, "Hey, I had just broken up with like the love of my life at the time, so I was very like heartbroken." And I emailed him. I was like, "Listen, I can't come back to Taiwan right now to see you, and it's going to be like another month later." And he's like, "Okay, looking forward to see you." Something along the lines of that. And then he passed away that night. And I actually just checked my email, my inbox recently, and for that message, and literally what was written there once upon a time is now blank. His email is still there. My words are still there. Like that, I'm going to come later instead of this time. And his email is blank. There's no words in there. He wrote things at that point. So it was pretty cool, actually, how the message has transcended, and now it's just this blank paper, this blank email. Interesting. It's pretty interesting.
Write your own story to it, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And is you said, right, that's how you transmute that pain, is being in service. And do you, in your spiritual beliefs, do you have a way that you connect with your father, either consciously or not, or spiritually? Do you have practices that support you in that?
I don't know about connecting with my father, besides just having gratitude for everything that he has done. Everything from how our family split up to him blowing all the money that we had in the family and, causing a lot of pain. I mean, I have gratitude for all of it. And sometimes that's such a great lesson for us, death. Like it took death for all this forgiveness to happen. And it's like, why? So now I live my life like, can I have the gratitude of death to all my relationships around me? I mean, I try to be as present as I can to every relationship and cultivate the greatest gratitude out of them that I can.
That's a big piece of wisdom you just shared.
He's been dropping a lot of
Alex,
wisdom bombs.
right? Because that's a place where, again, you want to go self-limiting beliefs. That's such a fear-based conversation in our society. I'm not saying, but overall, it really is. And I think of, conversations with God is a place where you embrace that, because that's how we live, is to embrace that there's also death, right? It's a phase. So I appreciate you have found your comfort and relationship of gratitude with it.
Yeah, totally. I think this shift from fear or anger or hatred or judgment to gratitude is probably the first and the only step that we need to be doing here, in this body, in this life. If we can just play around and do that, I mean, God's got the rest. That's really what I see. Our job is just to find some gratitude and peace in our life, in all the situations. Life will present so many challenges for us. And all of that is a world that's in our own mind. And if we can turn those fears and insecurities and limiting beliefs into gratitude, what else do we really have to do? Everything else is really just a game. This whole investing, it's monopoly.
Yes.
So I'm a little curious for our listeners, because you also are in the business with your wife. So there's, investment, maybe not the same, but I have a sense that she and you play different roles in the business. How do you negotiate that, being that one of your pillars is relationship? How has that been for you to grow into, and how for the two of you to grow into?
First, I want to share that of all the seminars I've been to a lot of different conferences, seminars, and this and that, coached a lot of people. And this is something that comes up so often is, I wish my wife was here. I wish my husband was here. I just need to start putting seeds so that they can get here. Once you get on this trajectory of changing your mindset and your life, financial freedom, going in that direction, you're going at like warp speed. Okay, I say, like, as soon as you have the realization that this is what you're going after, you're going at warp speed. So it's going to be challenging to be in a relationship with somebody that's not going at warp speed when you don't have the right tools and when you don't pay attention, because it's very easy to create this space and this divide in the relationship if you're going at warp speed and you think they're not in it with you. So one of the most important things I think is really important for us is communication. Like, we have to talk about what we're going through. Like, take the time. Even though I'm going warp speed, I got to slow down. We have something called our unionship meeting once a week, and we light a candle and we sit down and we talk about some of the things in our life, because this is the most important thing. Like, what am I doing it for? A lot of people, when they don't have the what am I doing it for, they just get lost. Like, I see people just, I was coaching somebody, and I coach people in the realm of financial freedom and finances, and he's just completely like going around, traveling the country, spending all his time on every Zoom, every call. I'm like, hey, how's your relationship with your wife? Like, when was the last time you guys, like, since you started this venture, like, have you gone on a date? Like, have you guys done something together besides, like, maybe watch some Netflix? And he's like, no. I'm like, so what are you doing all this for? Like, it's so important for us when we're on this journey to remember why we're doing this, what we're doing. For me, and I write in my book too, that everything I do is to create a kingdom that is worthy of my queen. That's what I'm doing it all for. And if I forget that, then all of this whole thing falls apart. There's no God, there's no like North Star, or no light guiding me. And so remember, and doing these our unionship conversations, meetings, it helps me get recentered again on, hey, this is what we say is important to us. This is how we want to represent love in our relationships. These are the principles or the values that we say matter most to us. Like, are we compromising any of that? In the way that we speak to each other, in the way that maybe, we've not paid attention to each other. Like, I think it's so important that, once a week, once every 2 weeks, like, just check in, even once a month. I mean, people don't do this for years and wonder why the disconnect happens. Maybe never even sat down and wrote what's important in our relationship. What do we represent as a couple? Because when you are in a relationship, I represent her and she represents me. or him or whatever you want to call it, but your partner, So yeah, I think that's something that's probably, it's really important for me in my life, to make sure that my wife is on the same page and she can be as involved as she wants or not be involved at all. The conversation, the communication creates a safe space for her to just, if you want in, you can be in, and it's okay that we're traveling at warp speed. You don't even need to be driving. You can just chill in the back seat and I'll drive, so yeah.
Thank you.
Wow.
I appreciate you sharing that.
You've certainly given us a lot already. I mean, the relationship piece, checking in, communicate. I always say that communication. If we just communicated, we could resolve 99.9% of everything, because we're letting each other know what's real, what's going on. I love that you bring that to your relationship too.
Yeah, and just one thing on communication. I think it's super important that we make agreements in the communication, because sometimes when we communicate from a place that's like anger, that doesn't really serve the communication either. Sometimes that creates miscommunication. So this is the one, I think this is the best advice that I have for anybody ever, is that when your partner or yourself is compromised, okay, that means like, I am not being the man that I say I'm going to be, and she's obviously not. We're angry, we're emotional. When we are compromised, we have to be able to not take that personally and be able to delete it. It's got to be able to be deleted and removed from the trash. Like what was said in those moments, because what ends up happening is I could be angry and I can communicate all my anger, saying all the things that I don't mean, and then she takes it personal. And then now we have a fight on that. And then the next fight is an addition to what you said last time. But you got to be able to delete that whole thing. So we have an agreement, and we laugh all the time. Sometimes we laugh in the middle. When I'm angry and I'm speaking from anger, she kind of starts laughing at me. It gets me more angry. But really, when I look back at it, I'm like, wow, thank you for laughing at that, because it is laughable.
Mm-hmm. It's a great interruption.
Yeah, definitely interrupt.
So, but the agreement is important there. Like, I remember the agreement, she remembers it, because if we didn't have an agreement right there and I started doing that and she starts laughing, that can totally escalate the situation to something way worse. So the agreements that comes along with the communication is super important.
I want to just add, because I had seen it recently, or heard it, and I think I shared it with Claude, about that a relationship should come together, but its direction should be towards God, spirit, whatever you want to label it. Instead of towards each other, it's actually for your both growth to God.
Oh, yeah.
And that if you keep that as the focus, we can go anywhere you want to go.
Right. It's all a pathway to God.
It really is. I mean, for me, that is my north.
Yeah.
Your kingdom.
Yeah.
I got it.
Because it takes the focus off that person's got to give me, or I'm going towards that person, instead of, we're going to a place and we're helping each other along the way. There's a big difference in that.
Yeah, for sure. And, when we talk about relationships and partnerships and all of that, that is one of my pillars, is the power of partnerships. I always speak about partnerships. It's a team game. And until when I first started investing, it was me, myself, I want 100%. I want all the control, all of this. I mean, but I can only go so far by myself, and when I started partnering with people, I probably 10, 20, 100x what I was capable of doing. Whether it's somebody else being the operator or I'm being the operator, like in the partnership, I'm very clear on what I want to create, and I'm able to do a lot more. One of the sayings that I love, that I don't remember who told me, but I want a piece of the watermelon, not the whole grape. Like I want a piece of like 10% of a watermelon or 5% of a watermelon than 100% of a grape. So that's my thinking around partnerships, and I believe, like, deeply, that human beings were really wired like tribally. Like none of us are really we really function well as like lone wolves individuals. I think within within even our DNA and our psyche, like we feel the most comfortable when we're a part of a group, we're a part of something, a team. And I mean, back in the day, to survive, they have to hunt as a group.
This has been a very full discussion, and I'm so grateful for you sharing your pillars, your pain, and how that's also inspired you to become a vessel. Right? It sounds we've known each other for several years. I've seen you step into this leadership role in greater and greater way, but an expansive generosity has just continued to pour out of you, Alex. So is there any last parting words of wisdom? And you've dropped a lot of great bombs today.
I don't know how much more wisdom you could say. Oh
but is there any, as we wrap up this episode, is there any last words of wisdom that you would like to share?
Find your next life-changing deal. One of my things is like I'm always looking for my next life-changing deal, my next life-changing relationship. And that's also up for interpretation for yourself. But that is something that you got to think of. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this podcast, right? How will this be my life-changing move? And again, it comes all back down to leverage, but it comes down to how can I use it to the maximum? So whether it's a real estate deal, whether it's a relationship, maybe the next life-changing deal for somebody is simply just to invest in their first deal. And then maybe for someone else, like for me right now, my next life-changing deal is I'm pitching a $300 million deal to, I don't know, Jay-Z's fund, Rockefeller fund, some billionaires. If that happens, I mean, it's scary. For me, it's super scary. And developing this relationship to fear, and when I'm afraid, literally, for me, those are signs. Like, this is exactly what you need to do. And I'm like, ooh, wow, I feel fearful. Instead of becoming paralyzed, I'm actually like, wow, I'm ready to go. This is my sign. I need to do this because this is why I'm feeling fearful. And if we can establish some sort of relationship with fear that's somewhat like that, I think we're all bound for greatness in that way.
Wow.
Period.
Yeah. If I had the mic, I dropped the mic.
Yes,
All right. Well,
yes.
You've been dropping the mic all day, but
yes. Well, we do. We want to thank you for your time, for your wisdom, for making yourself available this morning, and giving us a lot to be with ourselves and what's our North Star. So I appreciate it, Alex.
Oh yeah.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I had a lot of fun.
Great. And we'll be in touch until then. Okay. We wish you well.
Cool.
All righty.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Our intention is that you take these tools to break through any limitation holding you back from living your extraordinary life. If you would like to learn more about our group and individual coaching, contact us at thebtopodcast@gmail.com. Please support us and the podcast by following us and leaving a rating or review. To catch all the latest, follow us at the BTO Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.